Hello again, John Flynn here from Flynn Real Estate, serving Southern Ontario, based out of the Niagara region. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching this week. I'm going to get into a couple of news stories first, and it's the big news from BC this week. BC to bring in new rules on short-term rentals to create more housing. Premier David Eby says the number of short-term rentals has ballooned in recent years, and the government is taking action to reduce profit-driven mini hotel operators by bringing in new enforcement tools. So just like many major areas now, they're starting to crack down on the Airbnbs and the VRBOs and these vacation rentals. Me personally, I like staying at hotels because I feel that I don't feel as safe, I guess I should say, at vacation rentals and Airbnbs and whatnot. Because how many people have that code? They don't change the code every day. And like anyone that stayed there could just like break in or enter when you're sleeping or when you're not there and steal your stuff. That's how I feel. It's more of a security concern to me. I know that in hotels, yes, many people have access to the rooms, but it's a limited number of cleaners and people that work at the hotels. So for me, not a big fan of them in the first place. And of course, they do create problems when it comes to housing and neighborhoods and whatnot. Second story from CTV News. This one is kind of humorous. They don't mean for it to be humorous, but I think it is. I'll tell you why now. Homeowners on the brink face tough choice of selling home as mortgage payments climb. But experts say while that option may be on the table, there are steps financially stretched homeowners can take before putting a for sale sign on their front lawn. All right, let's look at these steps here. This is from one of the experts. Homeowners should begin with reworking their family spending, she said, by looking at the money coming in and going out, including frequent expenses on household maintenance, car repairs, and medical bills. So I don't know if she's suggesting cutting back on car maintenance and medical bills, but that's what they're talking about. Reassess those. Maybe you want to cut back and not get so many chiropractic sessions or repair your car as much. I don't know. But anyway, I don't know how you really look at those. If it needs to be done, it needs to be done, in my opinion. The next step would be to gather all potential ideas on paper to find out ways of diversing their income sources. That might mean a second job, asking for a raise at work, or renting a room in the house. Well, that is what it is. And lastly, this is the part that really gets me. It's not the time to focus on cutting out lattes, she said. You want to make sure you're making some big changes, and it needs to be sustainable. So don't cut out the lattes, $8 and $9 each, 2 times a day, 300-400 bucks a month. Instead, you should look at cutting your medical expenses and your vehicle maintenance. So I just find it's like I had to reread it. It says it's not time to focus on cutting out the lattes. So yeah, keep buying those lattes and those expensive drinks, and cut expenses elsewhere when it comes to maintenance, medical, maybe your dentist. I don't know, whatever it takes, I guess. Moving on to the national statistics, and I'm going to break these down a little further than I usually do. Some interesting charts and some interesting trends here to look at. Canadian home sales ease again in September. Statistics released today by the Canadian Real Estate Association show national home sales were down on a month-over-month basis in September 2023. Home sales recorded over Canadian MLS systems posted a 1.9% decline between August and September 2023. While this marked the third straight month in a row of decrease, September's drop was only about half as large as the one recorded in August. And here on the chart, you can see the sales were moving back up from the spring towards the 10-year moving average. We're still below it. And of course, now they've turned back around and are declining again. The recent trend of slowing sales and rising new listings continued in September, said Larry Surqua, chair of CREA. This presents an opportunity for buyers, although many of them seem content to stick to the sidelines until there's more evidence that interest rates are indeed finally at the top. This, combined with sellers who, by and large, do not need to sell, means the market will likely remain on the slower side until next year. That said, there are still tens of thousands of deals going on every month. Okay, so a few things with that comment. A lot of the buyers sitting on the sidelines is not because they are choosing to, it's because of affordability. They cannot buy. They're priced out with both prices and interest rates. And sellers, he says, by and large, they do not need to sell. There are many sellers that do need to sell. And I don't think it's just a few. I think it's more of a split down the middle. Many sellers do have to sell, and that number is only going to increase. And of course, I agree that there still is tens of thousands of deals going on every month. People still buy and sell in all markets. Sales are never going to go to zero. There's always going to be sales, just a lot less sales these days than there has been, but we're going to get into that in a minute. Resale housing markets have settled down pretty quickly following the spring's brief and somewhat surprising rebound in sales and prices, said Sean Cathcart, CREA's senior economist. With the inventory of homes for sale still historically low amid huge demand for housing in Canada, what happens next will depend on interest rates. Whether that means uncertainty about the possibility of further hikes or just the cost of borrowing money right now, neither of these will be resolved for would-be buyers anytime soon. As such, expect a quieter than normal winter with all eyes on the Bank of Canada. We'll see how buyers are feeling when the snow starts to melt. Again, most of what he said is accurate, but I disagree on that interest rates. Most buyers are not waiting for the interest rates to hit their peak, and then they're going to say, okay, let's buy. And by the time interest rates start coming down, a lot of them won't be in the position to buy or won't want to buy. So again, I think they're preying on that narrative from this spring where, they paused and everyone started jumping back in. I don't think that's going to be the case this time, and I don't think it's accurate to say that. But anyway, that's my opinion. And here's a look at the sales activity nationwide, and we have Q3 full results in now, and you can see, yeah, it's more on average, a little bit below the average as shown on the previous chart. New listings are up, very healthy, lots of new listings coming on the market, which is what we need. Looking at the market balance. So the blue bars are the months of inventory consistently rising. I'm guessing it's going to keep rising into the winter. And the sales to new listing ratio went from just under 70%, almost down to 50%. So quickly changed from a seller's market to a balanced market. And it looks like it's trending down pretty quick. It's going to be at a 5 or 6 year low if it keeps going. Now, looking at the national average prices in my own chart format using the CREA data, our prices actually increased from August to September 0.8% or $5,000. We're up 2.3% year over year from September last year or $15,000. And we're still down 19.7% from the peak or $161,000. Now, I just want to put some of this data into perspective because we talk about these numbers, but how does it compare to other Septembers? So all the red lines are the other Septembers, and usually, except for one on here in 2016, usually every September has a significant month-over-month increase from August. Now, in the last couple of years, they've been very minimal, but there's anywhere from a 2.5 to 4.5% increase in September over August. September is usually a good month for sales and price increases. Here's a chart that shows the year-over-year changes for the various months. And of course, those year-over-year changes seem to be getting smaller. They did make a little comeback from the negative year-over-year price changes. They're losing their steam. We're probably going to be back into negative year-over-year price changes in a couple months. Now, back to the perspective, and this goes back to whether you're buying or renting, and depending on when you got into the market, it could be bad or good for you. Now, I posted this on my Twitter this week, and I just want to kind of put it in chart format to visualize. If you had have bought near the peak, you would have lost $278 a day in value on your house. $8,500 a month, the average house in Canada has lost since February last year, which is pretty significant. Okay, so you're saying, yep, not everybody bought at the peak. So let's just go back 24 months, 2 years back. If you bought in the last this could be at any point. This could be 2 years ago, or this could be 6 months ago. It could be this spring. If you bought 2 years ago, September 2021, you've lost $42 a day or $1,300 a month in equity. So it's only $1,300 a month. It's still cheaper than $2,500 a month to rent a place, not really considering that $1,300 of your mortgage payment would go towards interest, even at those, and this is based on those rates back in 2021 at say 2.5 or 2.8% for a fixed rate. So yeah, rent isn't always throwing your money away. There's times to rent and there's times to buy. Obviously, in the last 2 years, I believe renting has been a better option for those of you who are not in the market. If you're in the market, okay, I'm not telling anyone to sell their home and go rent. Every circumstance is different. But in general, don't feel like you've missed out in the last couple of years because you have been renting. You've actually saved money or at minimum broke even. Moving on to the forecast. Korea updates its resale housing market forecast. Of course, they've downgraded once again, but let's take a look at it. As a result of these weaker sales and pricing trends since the summer, combined with softer market conditions going forward and higher for longer interest rates, the forecast for sales and average prices over the balance of 2023 and into 2024 has been lowered. And here's the numbers, and we're going to put those into perspective after. Some 449,000 residential properties are forecast to trade hands via Canadian MLS systems in 2023. And the previous forecast was 464, if I'm not mistaken. So there has been a significant reduction in that forecast. Let's look at that in chart format. So with that prediction, the 2023 number of sales on the MLS system is going to bring us back to 2010 levels. Now, remember, in 2010, there was a lot less people and there was less homes because there's been a lot of building since then. So let's look at this data again to put this into perspective and add some context to it. So the population back in 2010 was approximately 33.5 million. That was one sale for every 75 people that was happening back then. Now in 2023, the population has grown by 7 million people. That's one sale for every 90 people. And we've had approximately 2.5 million homes completed since then. So again, adding context to this, the sales are very similar, but the sales per people is a lot less. We have a bigger population and, of course, less sales per people now. So your chances of buying a house are reduced by about 20% compared with 2010. And now looking at the price, the national average home price is forecast to decline by 3.3% on an annual basis to $680,000 in 2023. This is down from Korea's previous forecast. All right. And again, we're going to look at this in chart format. So looking here, 680,000, the forecast for this year. And again, we have 9 months of data. So it's only 3 months that's forecasted at this point, down from 703,000 in 2022. And that's even below the 2021 average. So are we headed towards 2020 levels? I would say that yes, we're trending down. And, based on my predictions and forecasts on interest rates and unemployment rising, we are headed to 2020 levels and beyond that. But we're now lower than both 2021 and 2022 for the national average price by year. And again, we're very quickly headed in that direction, given the upcoming winter months, interest rates that are starting to bite, and economies that are starting to crack. Anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you next time.